Good morning. Welcome to the Premium Public Video Forecast discussion for Friday, June 14th, 2014. Before we begin, first I want to say Happy Father's Day as we are moving into Father's Day weekend. So I hope everyone is prepared for that. And I have some good news for this weekend, but we have to get through some other stuff first. And we'll talk about that as we have some severe thunderstorms to talk about for at least the potential of them for this evening. Also, if you can, please do like, share, and subscribe. It actually helps the channel out quite a bit. If you're interested in more detailed information like what you're going to see in this video every day, then definitely check out the Premium Consulting membership at $15 a month, along with outstanding discussions, at least in my opinion. You also have the ability to get specific forecasts. You can email me as I am a certified digital meteorologist, number 9, and you can ask me whatever you want. Let's say you have plans for a graduation party for this weekend. Hey, what can I expect? What should I be prepared for? I'm planning a wedding. What can I do to be prepared for it? Should I have the wedding outside? What not? So that's some of the things. You just get your own personal meteorologist. You don't have to worry about whether some silly weather app is going to change your forecast on you 15 times because all it does is average model guidance. Talking about model guidance, this is a good segue because I'm going to show you something in the upper level pattern. Next week, we are going to be moving into a hot and humid weather pattern. And most likely, you're seeing your forecast for high temperatures bounce all over the place. Why is that happening? Well, take a look at the model guidance here for next week. And you see this feature right here. This is called an upper level ridge. And you see how this is getting dark red. That means that we're having some very impressive 500 millibar heights. And that's showing up on the European, the GFS, the GFS ensembles, and also the European ensembles. But model guidance from run to run is kind of bouncing around whether or not we're talking about lower 90s or upper 90s, lower 90s or lower 100s. And the reason why is a simple process that we call subsidence, okay? Now, here's the overall gist of this, okay? When you have a strong ridge like this showing up, what happens is that the air at 500 millibars is sinking, and that sinking motion causes warming. So when the air sinks, it warms, it enhances your 850 millibar temperatures, which are going to be in the upper 20s Celsius. And when they get down to the surface, they can easily support temperatures in the 90s and 100s. Now, with that being said, if this ridge axis is off by a little bit, you don't get as strong of that sinking motion. So each model run has the placement of this very powerful ridge axis setting up either over the Ohio River Valley or over the northern Mid-Atlantic. Now, when you're talking about synoptic scale, that isn't a huge difference when you're talking about a large scale ridge like this. But in terms of impacts on high temperatures, it could be the difference between us being, a little bit closer to 90 and still the heat index, any way you slice it, is going to be in the mid 90s to mid 100s. So it's not going to be pretty any way you slice it, but it's pretty much the difference between whether or not we get record high temperatures here or just very uncomfortable. Any way you slice it, though, as I said, next week is going to be rather uncomfortable. And I know there's going to be a lot of graduations going on for high school and whatnot. It's happening today, next week. Yeah, be prepared. It's going to be muggy and disgusting any way you slice it. So unfortunately, it's going to be nasty in that respect. In the meantime, while we're having this strong ridge, we're also going to be watching something in the tropics here. Don't jump the gun yet as far as any type of development with this feature. It certainly is a possibility. But as always with warm core lows in the Gulf of Mexico, you want to see how it is established first before jumping into details of strength and rainfall potential. Because when you're dealing with tropical lows, these are mesoscale origin low pressure systems, warm core low pressure systems. And so any type of impact, let's say it's from a little bit of dry air off the Yucatan Peninsula, or maybe the development of the low level circulation is a little bit too close to the coast, could lead to a much weaker scenario. And on the other side, if that circulation happens, let's say it takes hold right in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico, the southern Gulf of Mexico, just north of the Bay of Campeche, then you can see rapid development. You really have to wait and see. So just understand that, hey, look, if you have any friends or family heading down to Mexico, especially around this area right here, or if you're in southern Texas, yeah, might want to keep an eye on this at the very least for flooding potential. But our main story over the next several weeks is going to be that the summer weather pattern that I've been talking about is here. And it's going to basically, we're going to basically be in a battle between the Western Atlantic Ridge and the ridge that takes hold over the southern plains via our La Nina / negative PDO influence. And what that generally means for us are cold fronts that start to die out, producing thunderstorms, muggy conditions. If you're hoping for a cool summer, that hope is dead. Okay, that's pretty much dead. The only thing that really that could save you from these humid temperatures, well, still it's going to be humid, but in terms of excessive temperatures, will be if these cold fronts kind of stall out and we get constant showers and thunderstorms, which will be a good thing because no one wants a drought, but also it'll be a bit of a pain in the neck. So we'll see how that all takes place. So here's our tropics right now. We are watching this feature right here, but as I said for quite some time, we really wasn't all that impressed by it. It does have a 20% chance of developing, but at this point, it's around the Gulf Stream here, and if it was going to take on more tropical configurations, more tropical development, it would have done so by now. Now, you might be wondering, hey, how do you study all this? How do you look at this in the model guidance? And I want to show you this free website that is really, really cool. This is moe.met.fsu.edu. It is an outstanding website, so that way you can study the structure of tropical systems. It's great in the winter and in the summer because what you can do is look at these low pressure systems, and I believe black is the established low, red is the forecasted low, as you can see here. And basically what this signifies is that you can click on it and then study the structure of the low pressure system. So here's our low pressure system out here. And so when we study it, what it does is that as the forecast hours go by, this is a little bit of an error, but you get the idea here. This is tropical symmetric warm core. This is asymmetrical warm core. So let's say it's subtropical or it's being disrupted. And then here's your cold core. This is when you have a very powerful storm. So when you have your nor'easters, you're typically in this zone. When you have a storm that we call vertically stacked, you've heard that before, that's in this zone. So this is a great tool. If you don't know exactly how to break down all the features, it kind of does it for you. So as you can see, we go from A to Z, right? So A to Z. So what's happening here is that the low is tracking, tries to gain some tropical development here. So subtropical tries to go tropical and then goes right back to cold core again. So during this time period, during this track here, that's when it has the potential of reaching a tropical strength. And you can see the Gulf Stream influence right here when it has the potential to do that. Notice it, in terms of the forecast hours, it doesn't have a lot of time to go into that tropical state. So I'm not really all that impressed with it. But if it does have that potential, well, there you go. There is the time period that it could do so. Also, if you look at the current low pressure system, you can also see here very nicely here when the low was over Florida. Again, not really a strong signal from warm core here. When it's kind of in between here, it's very weak. It's still trying to readjust its structure. So again, this is a great tool to use. I always like to share a tool with my subscribers and of course with you today on some of the cool tools that we use in meteorology. Now, currently, it is a bit muggy out there. Temperatures are already in the lower to mid 70s over the interior, mid to upper 70s along the coast. Notice our dew points are in the mid to upper 60s. If you don't believe me that it's humid out, well, just go outside and you will confirm it. So, what do we have setting up here on our weather tap, radar, and surface map? Well, this is called a prefrontal trough. And then here's our actual cold front. Now, this trough here is going to instigate some showers and thunderstorms, as you could already see, setting up to prep the region, so to speak, for more thunderstorms later on. What this does is help to stabilize the atmosphere. And when we take a look at the atmosphere right now, not all that impressive. Now, this is a very fine tool here, okay, in terms of destabilization, because if it creates too much cloud cover, it creates too much of a stable environment. So what you just end up with is heavy rainfall. So this feature here can make or break a severe weather event, but either way you slice it, you're going to be dealing with showers and thunderstorms this afternoon. So in terms of instability, look, I'm not really all that impressed. When you have a lot of these dark blue shades, okay, that means we have a pretty good cap already in place over the region. So we need some work to break it. In terms of the mid-level instability, not really all that impressed with it, to be frank. So, I don't see a lot of severe thunderstorms, but we also have quite a bit of moisture. Okay, so we have a lot of moisture. Do we have a lot of shear? It's mostly focused up towards the St. Lawrence River Valley. We do have some shear here over the eastern Great Lakes and back into the Ohio River Valley as this cold front's diving in. So I can't rule out some vertical wind shear, but notice the strongest wind shear is back up here, and that's because that's where we have our strongest lifting with our polar jet stream, which is typical for this time of year. You have a stronger jet streak up here, and you have stronger support for those winds. And let's see if I could pull up. Let's see. I think I have it here. Yeah, here we are. So when we take a look at our winds between 850 and 300 millibars, notice we're not seeing a lot of big difference here. Everything's kind of moving off to the west-southwest here. Normally, if you see a lot of vertical wind shear, you start to see a separation in terms of the direction. And we're not really seeing that at all in this setup here. Let's see here. So yeah, here's another example. Again, not a huge difference here. 500 millibars. Let's see here. Let's make sure we got this right. 850 and 500 millibar wind components. As you can see here, we're not seeing a huge difference, i.e. there really isn't a huge difference in the vertical wind shear until we get up here where we have stronger winds setting up and a little bit more of a difference in the wind direction. So currently what we have in place is a conditionally unstable environment. We have plenty of moisture with our PWAP values, precipitable water values at 1.28. Right now we're generally stable. That's where we saw all that blue. Okay, so we have our surface temperatures gradually warming up. Here is where we reach our maximum instability. So as our temperatures warm up into the 80s and 90s, this column becomes far more unstable. So this morning, obviously, it is more stable. But also notice, very importantly, all this dry air here. Now, why is that important? Well, okay, we're going to lift all this moisture. It moves into this dry air. It condenses, cools. The cooler air is heavier, so it slams to the ground. That is what could drive your severe thunderstorm development, because what happens is that your thunderstorm grows, your moisture is lifted up this column here as the temperatures basically warm up and we destabilize, and then the thunderstorms grow, the moisture condenses, this cools a little bit more, and then as that cooling takes place, it becomes colder than the surrounding atmosphere, so then that naturally falls because it's heavier, and that falling motion leads to wind gusts pushing up to 50 miles per hour because it slams to the ground and then expands out as the thunderstorm is intensifying. So we have the potential here. That's where we get our potential here in terms of severe weather. So when I take a look at the visible satellite picture, there's our prefrontal trough influence. There's our cold front back here. So if we get enough breaks once this trough moves through, or we miss some of these showers, then you're going to be destabilizing the atmosphere at a steady rate and warming the atmosphere. And you can see on the infrared satellite picture that's set up pretty nicely there. There's our developing low pressure system heading out, not a threat. This cold front kicks it out. On the water vapor satellite picture, shows up very nicely here. Okay, so there's our attempted warm core low pressure system, and the separation between these systems is producing subsidence right along the coast, so we're getting some of that clearing. There's our prefrontal trough, there's our primary trough, and our cold front is back here. So we have plenty of moisture transport ahead of the cold front, and lifting is occurring. So we have all these factors all coming together. So when we look at this synoptically, you can see the strong shortwave coming in for this evening. You can see not much in the way of a strong 850 millibar jet here. So this isn't going to be driven by by mixing down of strong winds at the mid levels, but we have a lot of moisture. So again, our Cape values, our strongest Cape values, our strongest instability is going to be taking place this evening over the northern tier and approaching New York City Metro, not so much in the Philadelphia Metro. So what does this tell me? This tells me that most likely your best potential for severe thunderstorms is going to be up here. That doesn't mean that you can't get severe thunderstorms down here. I'm just saying that the best potential, the most favorable environment is going to be up here. So when we take a look at the forecasted skew T of that environment ahead of those thunderstorms, see what happens? The atmosphere warms. Now we're unstable. See how that parcel is able to rise up the ramp? Not a problem. Notice also our temperatures and our dew points come together as the atmosphere begins to moisten, but we have all this dry air up here. So as the thunderstorm approaches and the instability continues to grow, you start to set up this environment where that moisture, this moisture here, this value moisture, is lifted up into the atmosphere. That moisture condenses, cools, and slams down towards the earth. And that leads to our strong wind gust threat. Maybe if you isolate thunderstorms with hail, certainly frequent lightning, because the more moisture you have, the more potential for some pretty vivid lightning. And so what we're seeing here on the HRR is this thunderstorm complex coming into the region, making for a very stormy afternoon. Basically from 3 p.m. on, you're going to be a threat for thunderstorms. The evening rush hour is going to be uncomfortable and plenty of heavy rainfall. I am concerned about localized urban flooding in this threat. Poor visibility with these thunderstorms moving through, and yes, that threat for wind gusts as well. I think that as the thunderstorms push into the coastal plain, they will transition more to heavy rainfall threats rather than severe threats. But you get the idea here. The evening is going to be, well, rather ugly. Now, the good news is that dry air builds in behind this. So Father's Day weekend is absolutely beautiful with low humidity and comfortable conditions. So diving into this forecast for today, again, showers and thunderstorms this afternoon and evening. High temperatures will range from the mid 70s to lower 80s on Long Island, where we have more of a southerly wind influence from the Atlantic. Mid to upper 80s on the immediate coast, upper 80s to lower 90s in the Delaware River Valley, and lower to mid 80s in the interior. Heat index in the mid 90s around the Delaware River Valley. For tonight into tomorrow morning, those showers and thunderstorms will clear out of the region. Tomorrow morning, look for clearing skies. Look for lows in the mid to upper 50s over the northern interior, lower to mid 60s along the coast. Tomorrow afternoon, high pressures in control, lower humidity, high temperatures ranging from the mid to upper 70s over the northern interior, lower to mid 80s along the coast. For Sunday, high pressure in control, tranquil conditions, an excellent Father's Day weekend with plenty of clear skies. Look for low temperatures ranging from the upper 40s to lower 50s over the northern interior, mid to upper 50s along the coast. High temperatures will range from the mid to upper 70s over the northern interior, mid to upper 70s along the coast, and lower to mid 80s in the Delaware River Valley. Now on Monday, we start to transition more to a humid weather pattern. High pressure shifts off the coast, more of a southerly wind, with temperatures ranging from the mid to upper 50s for lows. High temperatures will range from the lower 70s to lower 80s on Long Island. Again, strong influence from the Atlantic Ocean there. Mid to upper 80s along the rest of the coast. Upper 80s to lower 90s in the Delaware River Valley. And lower to mid 80s over the interior. On Tuesday, Rinse and repeat. Same thing on Wednesday and Thursday. And you know what? Let's also include Friday. What is that? Muggy conditions, some fog in the morning, the threat for an isolated thunderstorm in the afternoon, and those thunderstorms will be slow moving, so wherever they develop, they will be capable of producing quite a bit of rainfall, but the rest of the region will just remain hazy, hot, and humid. Temperatures will range from the lower to mid 60s over the northern interior, upper 60s to lower 70s in the suburbs, and lower to mid 70s in your urban areas. High temperatures will range from the mid 70s to lower 80s on Long Island, mid to upper 80s on the immediate coast, lower to mid 90s in the Delaware River Valley, and upper 80s to lower 90s over the interior, with a heat index pushing from the mid 90s to lower 100s every day. Now, if the ridge axis, as we were talking about earlier, sets up right over the northern mid-Atlantic rather than over the Ohio River Valley or over western Pennsylvania, then these temperatures, because of subsidence, because of the downslope over the Appalachians and subsidence from the upper levels, could be enhanced more towards the mid to upper 90s, even a few indications of lower 100s. But I think that would involve a perfect setup in terms of sinking air. So I'm kind of staying away from that right now, but that is certainly a threat. Any way you slice it, though, it's going to be muggy, hot, and humid. Be prepared, have air conditioning, drink plenty of water, and keep an eye to the skies. If you start hearing any rumble of thunder and you're in a pool, you want to get out, because lightning can strike even though the thunderstorm isn't right over you. So just be prepared for that. So next week is going to be our first test for really muggy, hot, and humid weather conditions, and possibly our first official heat wave in a few locations, especially around southwest New Jersey, the Philadelphia metro, possibly could include Newark in that as well. Basically the I-95 corridor, where we have that enhancement of the urban heat island effect. So that is your forecast discussion for today. I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend, and as always, stay safe out there.